It's Saturday morning in Sydney, and Kate and her husband are heading to a property auction.
Well, we've wanted to buy a house ever since we returned from London, which is about 2 years ago. So we've been saving ever since then, and we've managed to get a pretty sizable deposit together while paying rent on our 2-bedroom apartment. But I guess since we've returned from London, we've noticed that the prices have just gone through the roof, and it's just so much more expensive to get what we want to buy.
First-time buyers in particular are having to stretch their finances to get their foot on the ladder. Household debt levels in Australia are now near record highs.
I think we'd really like to find a place as soon as possible, and what we're finding is prices just keep going up, and we're continuing to pay rent, so the longer we wait, basically, the more we're going to have to pay.
Sydney's residential property market is booming due to record low interest rates, supply constraints and tax breaks for investors. Dwelling prices have increased 14.5% over the past year, and by 40% since May 2012. Auction clearance rates are at record highs. A further element pushing up prices here in Sydney is a surge in foreign investment, particularly from China. The value of foreign investment in residential property doubled last year to $34 billion, and for the first time China overtook the US as the largest source of money.
About 60% of the people buying houses apparently are from China. 13% of them are from Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong combined, and about 6% from the UK.
Some of China's biggest developers have been drawn to Australia in search of returns as their home market slows. They are also following their customers as many rich Chinese buy property abroad, a move analysts say is motivated in part by a crackdown on corruption.
中国的开发商来这里买地，我想它应该是一个理性的购买，就跟整个大环境，就如果大环境能够创造出更好的就是适合投资的环境，我想中国开发商一定会来。但是如果从总体上来讲，如果比如说房价一直高，购买力下降啊，或者这些，我想它的购买力它买的可能就会相对就会慢下来。但是现在据我了解，现在是对澳大利亚的这些农业啊这些项目是有更多的中国的企业过来。
The influx of Chinese developers such as Greenland, Country Garden and Storyland has provided a welcome boost to housing supply in Sydney and Melbourne. But there are concerns they are pushing up land values.
Well, Sydney and Melbourne are the two locations, particularly the inner suburbs, where that's actually having a distorting impact on land values. We've seen a number of instances of foreign developers, particularly from China, but elsewhere too, of paying values that are higher than local developers might be prepared to pay for commercial and industrial sites. So that's actually pushing up land values. CoreLogic RP data showed that the residential land value price in Australia across the capital cities in 2014 increased by more than 17%, and foreign investment is a part of that.
So is this a housing bubble?
I don't think we're in a housing bubble. However, the risks have risen to some extent, and one thing that we can see actually visually looking around, unprecedented volume of high-rise approvals. So there is a risk there if you're buying off the plan that you might overpay, and rental growth in Australia now has slowed to its lowest level since September 2005. So it is having an impact, all this new supply.
Housing bubbles are difficult to predict. Australia's high immigration rate and a housing supply shortage here in Sydney should support prices to a certain degree. But with interest rates likely to rise and the economy facing headwinds from lower commodity prices, a correction is possible. This raises the financial risks for Kate and her husband, who left today's auction empty-handed but are still determined to buy their first home.
Wow, that went for a bit more than what we were expecting. Yeah, pretty competitive. I mean, only 2 bidders, but they both really wanted it.
Jamie Smyth, Financial Times, Sydney.